girls in that yoga community, but online, but even that's changing. More women of color are coming in this community. And it's such an honor just to be here to support and speak and talk about self-care, meditation, and whatever you want to serve your community with today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Just a little bit about me. I'm a private yoga instructor, certified yoga instructor. I trained in India in 2015, and a stretch recovery trainer and meditation teacher. So I'm just really honored to be here.
I want to come do stretch therapy. That sounds amazing.
We'll do one when it's over.
Right. Exactly. So I feel like it's only right that we start by addressing the obvious elephant in the room, that we have a lot going on in the world right now that's heavy, it's exhausting, it is overwhelming, it is triggering in a lot of ways. And yeah, it's like, where do you even start? Right when we thought things couldn't get any worse, they went from like shit to hell. I mean, it is crazy right now. So, Joy, maybe we can start by sharing our experiences with racism within the yoga and wellness space, or just in general. You know, what have you experienced?
Great question. So just in general, in the yoga community, I'm on the East Coast here in New Jersey. I work a lot in New York City. And just showing up as a yoga instructor as a yoga student and a yoga instructor around New York City, it's usually I'm the darkest one in the room. But I really hold that powerfully, and I step into each room with that as if with the belief and the confirmation that I get to be here and I have the right to be here just like everyone else in this room. Yeah. And what ends up being beautiful when you step into a practice and or teaching people and they're not your color at all, everything is removed. You get to really experience through yoga how we are all one, and no one's in there thinking about a color at all. Mm-hmm. No one's in there thinking about anything but coming together and doing the work on the mat and really being in the present moment with each other during that time. Yeah. And that's been a beautiful experience. Yeah. But I will say it's taken a lot to like step into that room and be like, I'm meant to be here, and it's okay that I'm here, and I deserve to be here, and there's a space for me here, even if there's people that's not my same skin color. Right. But it's always too, if I've gone where it's like a few of us brown girls will always give each other the head nod, like, yeah, what's up? Even
that is a definite thing.
That evening, it could be like a workshop or a training, or like, I see you. So although, you know, I was coming from a place of like, I don't see color, you can't ignore it. So you would instantly like acknowledge somebody that's like another color is you. Yeah. And my experience of the yoga industry is that in the past really hasn't done the best job of speaking about racism, being upfront about it, trying to understand it, and being exclusive from that type of language. It's like exclusive, yeah, because yoga means yuj, and Sanskrit, it means one. Being inclusive, like I hear a lot of one, like love and light, I bow to you, you bow to me, I honor the light within you. But it's never really been like a feeling of, we acknowledge that this is happening to a certain group of people, and we're here to stand with you, and we want to change it and course correct it into something else. Right. And now that's starting to happen in our industry, and it is so exciting to see that, to see so many people, yoga instructors, health wellness coaches that are Caucasian or other, you know, and just want to be an ally and want to have a conversation about it, and are like, excuse my ignorance if I don't understand, but I'm gonna have the uncomfortable conversation and bring it up.
And that's so important. Yeah.
Yeah.
How many, I'm just curious, how many yoga classes have you taken with a Black yoga instructor or a person of color?
It's been a few. It's
Yeah.
been a few. So actually, when I went to India, it was a shock too, because it was nice to be trained under brown people and men, because I've been trained by just used to just seeing so many like Caucasian women teaching me. That when I got there, I was in shock. But that's like how ancient yoga, like yoga back in the day, was passed on through gurus and through men. So it was nice to see like a set of powerful men teaching all these people from around the globe. And it just like changed what could be possible, because it was only 2 brown people too in my course certification. Like we all traveled from around the world, but it was me and this Indian guy actually that was from London, but he was American. Yeah. And it was nice to see that. And I'm starting to see a change in that. I think in New York, it's a melting pot and it's very accepting. So I'm starting to see a change of more instructors of different colors, really teaching. And maybe I haven't been to enough classes that cater to like the Black community. And I'm going to be giving back to an organization that does that around children. Because we are here. It's just, maybe you got to know where to go. I don't know.
Why do you think, as I have my idea, my opinion, but why do you think there are so few of us? Like why, when we get on our Kula coaching calls, it's like, it's me, you, and one other, I think. But why? Like, why do you think there are so few Black yoga teachers, Black wellness, why? What's up with that? What do you think?
I think we're breaking beyond that. That might have to do a lot with ancestry. Like the reason why I decided to do this work and teach this work, I was very close to my grandmother, but she was overweight, obese, had suffered terribly from depression, had asthma, type 2 diabetes. These are things that like are in, women of color, like the Black, it's prevalent.
Diabetes, heart disease,
high cholesterol,
high blood pressure.
Exactly. So it's just, we come from a legacy of that. And I feel like now, because of that, and I think thinking we couldn't do better, now it's starting to change.
Right.
There are a lot of us. It's just maybe we're more spread out, but we're coming. We're coming. We're coming to that. And our ancestors, like back, we weren't taught differently. And so like now we are starting to break that.
I know. I think
and it's like in our neighborhoods. Like, look, if you go, like now, I mean, Brooklyn has completely changed, but like back in the day, you will only see like non-healthy like things around in our communities.
Girl, I don't know. You're from up north, but down here in the South, Black folk like to eat chitlins.
Yeah.
Girl.
My peoples are from Maryland, so I know. Like,
okay.
My father used to cook chitlins, so I know all about that.
Black people are so unhealthy in our food choices. The chitlins, the fried chicken, and the, putting fat back in your collard greens to cook it. Because, I mean, it does taste better that way. It does. Right. But, yes, we are, as a people, so unhealthy. But it does come from slavery.
Yeah, exactly.
We were given the scraps. We just cooked what we had.
And got creative with it. So if we're dealing with all of that for like centuries upon centuries, for years and years, it takes a while to undo it.
Right.
And so that's like, to answer your question, I think that a lot of it has to do with that. But now, as we're coming into a different time, like our generation and the generations that are coming up are starting to notice like, this isn't right. Mm-hmm. And we get to like teach something else. So I know I'm creating a legacy in my family just from that, because I'm vegan and gluten-free.
You know? That's amazing. Yeah, let's talk about that later for sure. I want to talk about gluten-free, vegan options, like plant-based eating for sure. I know for me growing up, I never saw Black women in on magazine covers. I
Mhm.
never saw Black women as being, whenever I see a Black person and associate them with health, it usually involves sports. Do you
Yeah.
agree? You know, if we are healthy, it's because we're an athlete. You know, we run track, especially for women. And the men play basketball and football. Like that's it. And so like if you don't play a sport, then I think for the most part, thinking about self-care, Black people use weed as self-care at this point, you know, and we don't always see meditation, yoga, fitness. Those things don't appeal to us because we don't see us doing those things a lot of times. I mean, it's
Right.
changing now, but growing up, I never saw that.
Yeah.
Never. My
I
mom
didn't
didn't
see
do
that either. I came into the practice of yoga in 2009.
Yeah.
But what my mom did do, I was very active. So she had me in dance and all these different things because I think even though she didn't really work out, she was naturally always thin.
Yeah.
She just knew that she wanted to create something different for
Yeah.
me in every going forward. And so since I was she was instilling that into me, like she had me in swimming lessons because she didn't know how to swim. So I was always very active, like coming up and growing up, even though she still let me eat like junk food and stuff. So I had that instilled in me. And I do think that's important to come around back to like why there's not a lot of us in yoga too. Like it has to do with, like you said, not seeing those images and believing it was for us. Yoga is for everybody. It doesn't discriminate. That's the beautiful thing about the practice.
And it's so hard to convince people of that now because we
Right.
haven't seen ourselves that way for so long.
Right. But we are one class, one moment, one conversation at a time, like this.
One breath. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so important that I can understand why people would be intimidated like that. Cause like Yoga Journal, I subscribe to them. And you know, it used to be like their CeeLo. So this is like, if you're used to saying this, it might say something. Mm-hmm. But now it was starting this. Like, right? But one thing that really stood out for me for them is Jasmine Stanley.
Yes.
This came out in February 2019, and I literally was about to start crying.
Yeah.
I got this, and I was just so happy to see that.
You know, she's from North Carolina. We went to the same
I do.
school. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So this is so great. So this told me, okay, something is changing in this industry and about just acceptance and that yoga is for everybody. And here she is with her voice, comfortable in her own skin, in her own weight, on this yoga cover that really wouldn't normally put somebody like this. And she says this in the articles in here.
Okay, yeah.
You know, talks a lot about body positivity and really having your own voice. There's two really crucial articles in that. And so I think it's changing, but since we come from, like you said, our history, we're now in change of history now, right? Yeah. And I know it's unfortunate because it took so long, but changing something so traumatic of an experience and so detrimental to like a population of people, it's gonna take time.
A lot of time.
You know, yeah. just like a yoga practice. Some people think they want to do headstand, like, and you just start it. Like it's a practice.
Listen,
just like meditation.
I am a yoga teacher and I cannot do a handstand or a headstand. I suck at inversions. I'm too tall. It's too far. If my legs go up, they have to come back down the equal. And I'm not doing it. Listen, we talked beforehand about, you know, the George Floyd and our experiences, you know, outside of yoga with racism.
Yeah.
And I made a post today on Instagram about my husband and how, my husband gets stopped all the time. It is insane how he is racially profiled. And sometimes it's because of the cars that he drives, but my husband has been pulled over for because his tint was too dark. He's been pulled over for crossing too many lanes at one time. He's been pulled, I mean, they'll pick anything. The most recent time he got pulled over was on the side of the highway at night. It was 30 something degrees outside, and they said that he fit the description. What description of what? What was happening was he cut through a bad part of town to take our daughter to a play, and he had to come back. He dropped her off and came right back. So they thought he was making a delivery, that he was dropping off drugs. Girl, he was taking our daughter to a play. And they followed him on the highway in an unmarked car, pulled him over, and ransacked his car. Well, there was nothing in there. All he had in there was our son's toys in the back seat. He was still dressed in work clothes because he'd come home from work and took her to her play right away because I was tired that day. They made jokes about, like, oh, how'd you get this car? He drives a BMW. Oh, wow. Must be nice. My salary can't afford this. Ha. Oh, he even had his work badge with him. He's a manager of an eye care center here, and they're like they made it seem as if he was like covering or hiding. Anyway, he called me when he got pulled over, and he was like, "Babe, I just want you to know that I'm okay, but I just got pulled over. I'm on the side of the highway at this exit just in case something happens." And I was like, "Don't hang up the phone." And he was like, "No, I have to put the phone down because I can't have anything in my hands." So, like that is the kind of terror and fear that I live with every time he leaves this house. Yeah. So, tell me, what is your experience?
I mean, I've had so many, but I'm so happy you said that. I can't imagine that because I'm not married, but I do have a brother, and I just thought about, wow, my brother's 30, and it's a miracle that he's still alive, like, right? Which is sad to even, and all the men in my family, it's a miracle that so I can't imagine what they're going through. But, I've definitely been followed in stores. But one thing that triggered for me that I thought I healed that didn't really heal, and why I'm here today to, speak in these conversations and these discussions and keep them in the forefront, is because George Floyd's death really triggered me, because when I was in New Orleans traveling with my partner, my boyfriend at the time, who was a Caucasian man, we were in New Orleans, and we had just come from a party, and we were trying to find this place. This is when I was still eating seafood. We were trying to find this famous place to like serve these like poor boy sandwiches or whatever. Yeah. And he already was older than me, but he looked much older than me. Like, obviously, if you're taking care of yourself, we don't crack.
You feel me?
But make a long story short, I had on like these short shorts and these high heels, regardless of how I was dressed. They didn't see any illegal action between us. We were actually lost in this neighborhood. I actually was like, "Babe, hold on. I'm going to go to the cops," because obviously they're a cop. They're going to know, they might know where this place is or can lead us to the right thing. As I bent over to like, "Excuse me, officer, we're lost. We're not from here." Somebody smashed my head down on the cop car and put my hands behind my back, and they handcuffed me and took my purse. And I was in shock because I was like, "What is going on?" I didn't do it and they divided us. The crazy thing about it is they didn't handcuff him. They divided us, checked our IDs to see if our stories were correct. My boyfriend at the time was irate. He was trying to be calm. But between him and I, he was the one that is a threat to you, because he was a jujitsu teacher and had two schools, jujitsu schools, where he taught at, but he practiced jujitsu for like over 20 years. So when you practice martial arts or any like form of that, your hands are weapons. They're considered lethal weapons.
Right.
They did not handcuff him. They talked to him normally. They split us up. They kept me handcuffed until they checked my stuff, because at the end of the day, they thought I was a prostitute. They thought I was a Black prostitute and that he bought me or whatever. Now, granted, the power of like words and vibration, he made a joke to somebody that like pulled up in a Suburban, was like, "She's beautiful," whatever. So it also made me realize to be wise with my words and like, you know, not joke about things like that, because you can attract them. But at the end of the day, you didn't see anything. I literally got arrested for being thought of being Black and being a prostitute, which I was neither one, you know.
Ridiculous.
And they ran our things and whatever, and our stories matched up. But yeah, they didn't arrest him. They didn't like detain him. And it was crazy. And so it brought up all of that for me.
Yeah.
Is that I didn't even see the video of cashier at Trader Joe's told me what happened to him. And she was just like, if you decide to watch the video, it's graphic. I'm just warning you.
Yeah.
And it was even that sad in that conversation because she was not Black, and she felt like almost she didn't have a right to like share the information with me. She kind of felt like, and she said something about it, and I was like, no, you're human, and you were looking at it from a human point of view, like human to human. This is not right, you know. And so, but I noticed myself shrinking and sharing the Black experience, or being able to have these conversations with my friends that are not Black, assuming that it was going to be uncomfortable, or not assuming that, knowing maybe it was possibly going to be uncomfortable for both of us, but trying not to ruffle any feathers and backing off and being like, I might offend them. I was losing my own voice in standing for this, and being okay with being in the discomfort of, even if this is my friend and they don't agree with me, being okay to have the conversation. Mm-hmm. And I was starting to shrink I feel like as a yoga teacher too, in that way. Mm-hmm. Because if we're going to show up and teach self-care and community and having a voice, which is a part of self-care, using your throat chakra, meditation, we got to be able to stand in these conversations and lead them with so much love and compassion. And so I've been showing up in a lot of these conversations.
Personally, let's get into the meditations. I'm going to need to get on my meditation game hard, because I taught a class last night and I got choked up. You know, mm-hmm. It was emotional for me to teach that class, and to, you know, we cue in yoga the breath. Inhale, exhale, breathe. And it's just, it got to me last night, and I was just like, ugh. There was one point in time that I think I had us in like pyramid pose. I thought, thank God my head is down, because I'm gonna cry. And if I cry, I'm just gonna leave it right here on this mat. It was just, it's heavy and it's a lot. So let's talk about meditation as a form of self-care. I meditate occasionally, but I have to be honest, it's not my favorite thing to do. So girl, give us some tips about, like, for those of us who are not, you know, great at meditating, where do we start?
Where do you start? Good question. So I'm gonna answer this two ways. For my analytical peeps out there, there's so much research now on how meditation changes your brain on a neurological level. So there's been a lot of studies and a lot of research that you can source if you're feeling so apprehensive about stepping into it and you really just think it's all woo-woo and it doesn't work. So it actually is proven now that it's working on a scientific level, right? Okay. Like even Yoga Journal did a thing, the neuroscience of presence, and they pulled some facts from this book written by Anne Swanson. She wrote this article called The Science of Yoga. And she actually talks about how we can create our own like dopamine and serotonin levels with meditation. So that's one lane you can start, like doing the research.
Okay.
Keep being informed and trying to come to a place of understanding around it if you don't understand it enough to trust yourself and be willing to step into it. For my people who are just stressed out and just like, I'm overwhelmed, I need a tool, I need something, and I've been either practicing unregularly or need another tool to practice.
Yes.
I would say just let yourself get on the mat or in your chair, in your sofa, and just be willing to do the work. And this is how I started.
How long should we sit for that on our sofa or on our mat?
Well, I'm going to give an example out of my own life. Now I can sit up to 1 hour. The practice that I'm into, you're supposed to practice 2 hours a day and sit up to 1 hour. I started off practicing meditation for 1 minute. 1 minute. I was just like, if I can sit for 1 minute, I would just time myself. If I can sit for 1 minute, then I know there's light at the end of this tunnel, wherever it's going to lead me. But I knew I wanted it. So this is what the people that know you want it and trying to use every excuse in the book not to practice and not to come to it. It is your own self-care. You have to take care of yourself. We cannot show up and serve others and be in these conversations and be in community and really show up in our higher purpose, whatever that is for you, if we are not taking care of ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so meditation is a deep form of self-care. And so I'm saying to all of you today, start with just 1 minute. I could not sit with myself. I had so much anxiety. I could not sit with myself. I could not face myself. And so I was like, I can't sit for like 5 or 10 minutes. So I sat for 1 minute and I started like 1 time a week. And then I started getting up to like, just let me sit for 2 days for 1 minute. Let me sit for 3 days for 1 minute. And it literally started like that. And this was before apps. I started meditating in 2013. So this was before all those apps were out.
Right.
But YouTube was getting like still like, you know, in the works. And I was like, well, I can't sit by myself because I just get caught up in my thoughts. And I didn't know, I wasn't trained on how to be in my breath. So I was like, I need something to listen to anchor me. And the only thing that like is like so peaceful to me is water. So I would listen to like rain or ocean sounds or something like that to have me allow me to sit for 1 minute.
So what about those of us who are like, listen, sis, 1 minute is still too long. Or, you know, I have a grocery list in my mind. I have laundry to do. I have these kids running around. The dogs are here. You know, I got things to do, even 1 minute. How do you get your brain to shut the F up for a minute?
Okay, so great question. It's not going to shut the F up. It never will. Buddha calls that monkey mind when your thoughts swing and connect from one thing to the other, right?
Yes.
That's the practice within itself. So even if you're sitting for 1 minute, just, okay, I'm going to sit and breathe. Let me concentrate on just literally inhaling through my nostrils and exhaling through my nostrils for this next minute and being okay and accepting with, a thought is gonna come where I need to pay this bill, or I can't pay my bills, or there's laundry that needs to be done. It's okay. See if you can come back to the breath. And I always cue for people just starting out, make your breath audible, meaning that you can hear it. Make it deep enough where you,
Yes. So should we be counting that breath? Like how do I get my brain?
You don't have to count it if you're only sitting for 1 minute.
Okay.
Another thing that helped me when I was studying in India, because at the time when I came to India, I was only meditating for 20 minutes. But in our class, we had to sit for 30 minutes. Well, it was guided too, but then they started letting us go and not being guided completely. You can count from 1 to 10 or 1 to 5. Pick a number sequence, count forward, and then count backward. Just count forward and then count backward. If you need something to anchor your mind and to center and the breath is not doing it, I would also say make sure you're sitting in a comfortable seated position that's right for you. You don't have to sit on a yoga mat like everyone else. Start off sitting. I started off, I think, meditating on my bed. Like I was just whatever. I just like did it wherever. Start off, sitting. If you need to lay down, but don't go to sleep. That's why we don't cue a lot to like lay down, because you can get out of the present moment and fall into the sleep. Right. Unless you're choosing to meditate with an app, laying down, and you know you're about to go into your sleep, I stand behind that because your subconscious is open.
I fall asleep during Yoga Nidra, and I think Yoga Nidra I see that as meditation. I fall asleep every single time. I cannot stay awake, but I do. What I will say is when I do have a regular meditation practice, like whether it's Yoga Nidra or something where I'm sitting and meditating, my mind is so much more clear. I can focus, I can concentrate. I'm less likely to pop off at someone. I am more calm with my kids. And so how do we stay consistent with that? Because it's like, I know the benefits of meditation. Yeah. I know that I feel better when I meditate, but then sometimes, like this happens. The protests are going on, and right now my natural inclination is just, I don't always think to meditate through this. So how do we?
That's a great. What is your full question? How do we
practice self-care, like meditation, yoga, exercise, that kind of thing, even when we don't feel like it because, things are heavy, or even when we tend to like fall off? Like, how do we stick, stick through?
Like I said, it's a practice like anything else. One thing I'm going to say this, some entrepreneur that I follow, I love him, Gary Vee, says this all the time: be selfish so you can be selfless.
Oh, I love
So come to it like, I'm worth this. I deserve this time. And when I show up for myself in self-care, like you said, I'm going to go out into the world a better person, whatever that feels and looks like for you. So you're reminded, like, you're more patient with your kids, you're more focused, you may be more patient with your own yoga students, and being in your purpose, and I'm gonna keep it real. Like I said to Ashley when we were prepping for this, it can literally stop you from being like, okay, let me drop into this so I won't like feel like I need to slap somebody today, because I'm so triggered from all the trauma and the heaviness around this, and I just want to slap a cop or like something like that, because it's triggering so much. So be selfish, right? It's called self-care for a reason. Be selfish. You are worth it. You deserve it. Even if it's 1 minute of just a little bit of peace and calm and something, and it actually calms your nervous system. Okay. It signals your brain to kick in your sympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest state. So you're not constantly in the fight or flight state. Being constantly in a fight or flight state exhausts our nervous system, and it actually leads to our immune system weakening. So look at all these things.
COVID-19 is still a thing right now.
Exactly. Yeah. So look at all these things. Like, it's a practice. It's like going to the gym. It's like building new muscle. It's like a yoga practice. You gotta believe that you're worthy enough to do it and keep stepping into it. And the experience is always going to be different every time you come to it, but don't give up. You'll notice a difference. You'll start to notice a difference, whether it's in your sleep, how you handle other people, how you start to come to yourself. The benefits of it shows up in so many different ways. And so be selfish to be selfless.
How, and kind of just to kind of bring everything full circle and kind of end this soon, what do you think, our brown people, let's see, how do I want to ask this? What misconceptions maybe or myths do you think that the Black community and brown folk have as it relates to things like yoga, wellness, meditation, that prevents us as a people from doing more self-care practices?
That makes sense. It's so many different things. Like, obviously, if you are constantly seeing images like this, you might think like, that's not for me. It's not for me. It's not for our people. So you make up this limiting belief like that. You think like, it's not for my body type, or, it's something that weak people do. Like, it's something that our people don't do. Like, we're not into that type of stuff. Like,
that ain't for us. Yeah.
Exactly. That's why.
Look at
all
the price.
Those stories.
The price of yoga class or of classes and care, self-care is expensive,
Yeah. But you know what? You get to look at it like, but I'm worth it.
Right.
You know, and you can find so many, yoga is like accessible now, especially now. So many practitioners are offering like donation-based free things. You can find things on YouTube. Like start asking around, like be willing to do the work. It is a practice and it's going to take work. It's just like therapy. I used to believe that too. I had to believe because in the Black community, therapy does not work. I'm all about therapy now.
We don't do therapy in Black people. Yes.
Exactly. It has changed me leaps and bounds, but it's work. And so it's scary. And so we fear it. So we like push it away as opposed to like being okay with like hopping into it. You know, I would also say like find a community that welcomes that type of work, that you feel safe in, that you feel vulnerable enough to share, that you can really start to dive into and exchange information, you know?
And maybe as one final last thing for real this time, for our white friends, for our non-Black friends who are listening and watching and who love us and care for us and are asking, girl, how can I help? What can I do? I want to support you, but I don't know what to do. What would you recommend? How do you recommend that our white sisters can support us as Black yoga teachers, or you know, just in the yoga and wellness space? How can our white friends support us and help us?
I think one, being vulnerable enough to have the conversation and like acknowledging what's going on and having the courage to like say something, like say, I want to be an ally for this. And I think also it comes with us too, us being compassionate to them, that they're never really going to fully understand because they don't walk in our shoes, but acknowledging for them that they're acknowledging it, you know, and then really walking with them, like really being okay to be like, this is what is upsetting me right now. Like I've used George Floyd's name in a lot of my friends who are not of color, like that asked me, how are you doing? And may not have even been thinking about that. They were just like, how are you doing? I was like, I'm upset. I've been crying for humanity, and his death is one reason why I'm really upset. And I kind of opened the conversation up like that, just to be like real and raw, to give them the space to be raw. So I would say like to them, do your research, be willing to really hear us and listen to us, and find a place, even if you don't agree, create a space to at least come into some understanding. Yeah. And listen, you know, and don't try to like deter it with, oh, that was just because be sensitive. You know, be our ally, be strong, but really be sensitive and compassionate to what has gone on. Yeah. And I also take responsibility, you know, take responsibility for what, you didn't do it, but like, this is, you know, be willing to take responsibility, even if it's just them taking responsibility, like, I didn't know. And I'm sorry, you know, I apologize, but I'm here now, you know, and I don't know, and I don't understand, but I'm still willing to have this conversation. Yes. And also like I said, be informed, and, you know, even like a lot of people are starting to like read books. A lot of our sisters now are starting to like find books on like racism and think that, you know, we're doing that. They're doing that in Nakula. And I love that, you know, because they're really trying to like dive in their own way. Yeah. And I can't really tell them like what actions to take, because I think that would be, I wouldn't want somebody to tell me what actions to take in this time now, but just be there for me. So I can't really tell them what I can suggest, like, you know, you can donate, protest, but find what resonates with you, even if it's just being willing to have the conversation with all of your friends, all of their friends that are of color, and being like, I'm here with you. I hear you.
Something that's really important too is, you know, if you hear one of your family, you know, non-Black friends or family members saying and doing things that are racist or prejudiced anyway, call them out. Yes. Just call them out.
Yeah. And have the conversation.
Yeah.
You know, Definitely.
Yeah.
I love
Joy,
that.
I'm so excited that we did this. Joy,
I'm so excited too.
tell them where to get more of you. How can they holler at your girl after this?
Sure. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Joy Rochelle is the name that I go by in the fitness and wellness world. That's my first and middle name. So it's JoiRychelle. So at Joy Rochelle for both of those. My website is essentially connected. And you can check me out. Actually, I just released, if somebody wants to listen to a guided meditation, like we didn't go over the styles, there's so many different styles, but guided is like you're listening to a teacher guide you through the experience, the journey, from your breath to how you sit to like just in the theme of it. So if anyone wants to listen to that, on my in my bio, in my link, I have a link there for a guided meditation that me and my friend Helen Mann put out today, and it's around the theme on one. And we talk about like, what racism usually comes from is fear, and it creates separation, it creates hate, it creates lack of love and lack of acceptance. And so the meditation that dives into that. It's a conversation and a meditation.
I love that, yeah.
And it's 16 minutes. I know that's a lot, so you can start and stop it. It's on Vimeo, so it's up permanently, and you can start there if you need something to dive into. And you kind of know me now, so sometimes it's nice to listen to somebody like you got to see, hear, feel, taste, and touch. So that's up in my link in my bio right now if you need a resource. Yeah.
I'll include the link to your website too.
Okay. Awesome. I'll send you all that. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you. It was a joy.
Absolutely.
Namaste. All right. Namaste. No, the baddest bitch in me honors the baddest bitch in me.
I love that. Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.
All right.